Hey, everybody. Friday. It's Chris. It is November 8th. Thank you for joining. I did a couple live streams this week, one late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. They were great. We had 700, 800, 900. I think we had 1,200 people on one I did Tuesday afternoon. Amazing. So thank you all for that. It has been a week, obviously. A ton of questions already, and I hope there will be more out there. Please ask as many questions as you can. A couple things. One, please subscribe to this channel. We have had a surge in subscriptions in the last week and a half, which is amazing. We're almost to 50,000. I would love to get there. I will even make a special video if we get there. So please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. If you have not checked out my Substack newsletter, just go over to Substack. It's Chris Cillizza, CILLIZZA.substack.com. Ton of free content over there. I just did a mailbag post where I answered a bunch of questions, and I'm going to answer a bunch more here, but check that out too. If you want to support, I always say, so here's what I'm selling: independent, nonpartisan, transparent, authentic. Those are the four things I'm selling. Yeah, there's no corporate overlord telling me what to do. There's no partisan bias guiding me. I'm just trying to bring it to you as straight as I can, which is, by the way, no guarantee I'll be right all the time, maybe even most of the time. But I promised you I will bring it to you as straight as possible. On this channel, I'm making videos 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. Sometimes I'm like 2 in election time, especially. And then I'm doing a live stream every Friday. So if you want to support that, I very much appreciate it. So in this setting, if you're new to a live stream, I know a lot of you come every Friday or every time I do it, which thank you so much. But if you're new to a live stream, here's what I do. I answer questions. I try to get to as many as I can in about an hour. Usually that's a good amount of time. The only thing I do is I say, I would love if you want to make a donation to me and what I'm building and what I'm trying to build. If you do make a donation of any sort, financial donation of any sort, I will jump your question up to the top and read it, sort of bump it up in priority and read it. But that does not mean, please hear me, that does not mean you need to make a donation for your question to get read. I will absolutely try to get to as many as possible. I just wanted to throw a little bone to people who were willing to reach into their pocket or their phone, however we pay for things now, and support me. So whether you are able to financially support me or just support me by being here and being a subscriber, thank you. That's the big message I want to hear. All right, let's get to questions because we got a lot of them. You snooze, you news. Thank you for the donation, my friend. What individuals have the greatest influence over the Democratic National Committee? Who will pick the next chairman? So there's going to be a little bit of an interregnum, to be totally honest. I think one of the problems that Democrats have is there's no obvious person to sort of be the Trump foil. The person that would make the most sense there is Hakeem Jeffries if Democrats took back the House and he was the Speaker of the House. But I don't, or took back the House. But I don't think they're going to. I think Republicans are going to hold that majority narrowly, but they're going to hold that majority. So while Hakeem Jeffries will still have a prominent role, being the minority leader is different than being the Speaker of the House. Joe Biden's too old to play that kind of like role. Bill Clinton's too old to play that role. Barack Obama, I think, is not interested in playing that role. Neither is Michelle Obama. I know some people say Kamala Harris, maybe, but I do think there's going to be a stink of having lost to Trump on her, candidly. And I don't know that people are going to turn to her. Tim Walz always kind of felt more like a regional candidate, like a great Midwestern kind of candidate, but not a national candidate. So I don't think it's going to be him. Who could it be? I mean, I think it's going to start to be the folks like Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, Pete Buttigieg probably, though it's a little complicated because he's obviously still in the Biden administration for another 3 months. So I think it'll be people like that. If you want to know someone I think Democrats should elevate, it's Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, 2-term governor of Kentucky, who, as elected as a Democrat, he's more moderate than the party in general, but he's from Kentucky. It's kind of hard to get elected if you're not more moderate than the National Democratic Party. He has shown an ability to win over white working class voters, rural voters, urban voters, people who live in Louisville or Lexington. So I think he would be a really smart choice to give a more prominent role to. Obviously, he's still the governor through, I think, 2027. So he's got other stuff going on. But I think it would be smart if they did something like that. Okay, let me keep going. Brendan Fleming. Brendan, thank you so much, as always, for the kind donation. Very much appreciated. Brendan says, thanks for your coverage of the election, Chris. Dems have a whole lot to do to regain the non-college educated vote. What guardrails are in place to prevent Trump damaging democracy? So this is a point at which there's a huge amount of debate, right? Unless something drastic changes, Donald Trump is going to, the Republicans are going to control the White House, the Senate, and the House. They already have the White House and the Senate. I think they will have the House by the time this is all said and done. Still some votes being counted in California, a couple other places, but I think they will control the House. Guardrails that are in place. I know people don't want to hear this, but I actually think there are more than you might think. Look, I don't see how Donald Trump suddenly gets rid of the independent media. Like I think I've been critical and honest about the state of mainstream media. It's not in a great place from a business perspective or an editorial perspective, but I don't think it's going away. And I don't think Donald Trump can make it go away. These are companies owned by private citizens. I mean, could he pressure Jeff Bezos into covering him a little more friendly? I guess that's possible. Could he pressure Sulzberger's into covering more favorably? Sure, I guess. But again, I don't see him taking over these organizations. I still think they're going to do. I mean, I know the reporters who work there. They're going to do the work they do. They would do that work if it was Kamala Harris too. So I don't see that. The Supreme Court. I know a lot of people say the immunity ruling is evidence that the Supreme Court and the 3 justices Trump put on it are totally beholden to him. I mean, yeah, but this is a Supreme Court who refused and dismissed out of hand Donald Trump's claims about a stolen election in 2020. They could have heard it at a minimum. They could have said, okay, yeah, we'll listen to it. They didn't. So I guess I'm a little more skeptical of this. Everything is going to hell and democracy is going to be over in about 3 weeks. I know people call me Pollyannish about it. I sort of have faith in our institutions. And by the way, just one thing about Congress. Like, yeah, I think they're going to do a lot of what Donald Trump wants, a Republican-controlled Congress. But do I think that if he's like, you know what, we're going to dissolve Congress and I'm just going to be a dictator, do I think they'd go along with this? No, I absolutely don't. So, yeah, I guess I know that's different than where a lot of people land on this, but I just, I'm trying, like I said, what I'm selling, independence, nonpartisan, honest, authentic. I'm trying to be as honest and authentic as I can. Thank you, though, Brendan, for your donation. It means a ton. I appreciate your support. Does not equal says, I wish I could, but your Friday live streams are at 2-3 JST. Damn time difference. What is JST? Should I know what that time zone is? JST. Elaine H. Elaine, thank you for the donation. Elaine says, thank you for all you do, Chris. Gretchen Whitmer has been talked about for the future. Also, if Joe had dropped out sooner, would it be in the Democrats' interest to put forth another woman so soon? Yeah, I know that is absolutely a conversation that I've had, that people have had with me, raising that question, Elaine. So you are far from alone in that, because obviously Hillary Clinton lost, Joe Biden won, Kamala Harris lost. It's so hard to answer because I just don't know what 4 years from now looks like, assuming Trump's leaving, which I think he is, because I know we can talk about this, but it's kind of hard to amend the Constitution, and I just can't imagine he's just going to sit in the office forever. But that may be another question we'll get to. So I don't really know what things will look like. I just think Whitmer is a good profile, right? She's a Midwestern woman who's moderate-ish, but not so moderate like Andy Bashir that I think she would alienate the liberal left, maybe speak some truth to power as it relates to sort of wokeism and identity politics. And again, she's from the Midwest, which proven again, Joe Biden won Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. He wins the presidency. Donald Trump in 2016 won Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, wins the presidency. In 2024, Donald Trump won Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, wins the presidency. Like, to me, you start from the Midwest and then you build outward. The coast is not where you should start from, which is why I'm a little bit skeptical about Gavin Newsom. Luke Groth. Hey, Chris, I have one question. If he could be convinced to run, what do you think of the viability of Jon Stewart winning in 2028? I can't see any downsides if he did run. No, okay. Let me not dismiss things out of hand, because the guy who's about to become the 45th and 47th president of the United States, seminal experience was as a reality TV star. So I don't think I can say no, Jon Stewart would be bad. He's he's to the left of the country on a lot of things, not on everything. He's actually kind of unpredictable on a few issues, but he's to the left on a bunch of stuff. And obviously he's an entertainer and a comedian as opposed to a politician, but that didn't being an entertainer didn't hurt Donald Trump. I'm open to any and all possibilities at this point, and I think everybody should be, given who is about to become the president again. And I think what Trump taught me in 2016 and why I was not terribly surprised about 2024, why I actually thought Trump was going, I said a fingernail. It's not like I thought he definitely would win, but I thought if you forced me to guess, I'd say him, is because I'm not going to be surprised anymore. So, maybe. Jeff Wolf, 2 decades ago, Democrats were competitive in rural areas. Now they depend more on urban voters. What's caused this shift? I think it's a lot of cultural value stuff, and I do think it's a lot of the woke stuff. I think whether it's trans issues, whether it's the Latin X thing that apparently even Latinos don't use, they don't like to be referred to as Latin X, the bathroom bills. I do think a lot of it's in women, men, people who were born men who have transitioned and play in female sports. The thing that's hard about that is there's just not that many of those people, right? Like Kamala Harris was crushed by this trans ad that Trump ran. Kamala Harris is for they, them. Donald Trump is for us. It was about her being on video saying that she supported taxpayer funds for surgeries for transgender inmates. I think that's happened once or twice total ever that taxpayer funds have been used for it. And the number of I can't think of the right word to say, people who are born men but are now transitioning and are women competing in men's sports, it's like 30 or 40 people in the country. It's not thousands and thousands, but it is a really powerful issue. And so I think, the Democratic brand is trash in a lot of rural areas in this country. And I don't totally know how to fix it, because who cares a lot about those issues I just went through, Latinx and defund the police and the Black Lives Matter movement and transgender stuff, is the liberal left, which is the base of the Democratic Party. It's really hard to just get away from that, right? You can't just walk away from it because you need your base. Junk Rig Sailor, sir, thank you as always, or madam, thank you as always for your donation. Very kind. I'm sick and tired of the elite class and mainstream media saying Dems now need to move more to the center when it is blindingly obvious that Trump was appealing to working class Dems who ended up voting him in. But I guess you're saying that moving to the ideological center is different than appealing to working class Democrats, that working class Democrats are not necessarily in the ideological center. I mean, I think it's probably fair not to generalize that working class Dems are all one thing or all another. But I do look, Trump has cut into the union vote. The union, lower middle class and middle class whites, particularly white men, used to be a core Democratic constituency, and Trump has absolutely upended that. Now, I think focusing too much on any one demographic group doesn't really get you where you need to go, because Trump won Latino men. Trump did incredibly well among 18 to 29-year-old men versus how Republicans have done in the past. So there's a lot of places that are leaking demographically for Democrats. So I don't think it's just the one place, but I take your point. All right, while I take a sip of this coffee, because I need some because the old throat's getting dry. Like this channel. We got almost 500 people on here and only 75 likes for this video. Come on, people. Waiting. 76. 112. There we go. All right, let's keep going. Clarence Peterson. Chris, I'm curious as to how you explain the few states that did not shift rightward. Harris slightly outperformed Biden in Utah and Washington, and Colorado was roughly the same. Washington, I don't know. Colorado, the same. I think you don't read too much into it. Utah, I mean, my theory there, look, Utah has always been more resistant to Donald Trump than other Republican states. Obviously, Utah is a pretty reliably Republican state normally, but it's also heavily Mormon. And Mormons have been the last group of the traditional Republican conservative groups to go over for Donald Trump. Yes, there are absolutely some, but there's a lot of Mitt Romneys out there who are like, this guy has nothing to do with our value set. And so I think Utah is weirdly like the home of the Republican resistance to Donald Trump, at least on values. So I think that makes some sense. Washington State have not dug into enough and need to. But that gets to the thing which I've made videos about, talked about, and written about. 48 of the 50 states, Donald Trump did better percentage-wise in 2024 than he did in 2020. Like, he lost New Jersey by 16 in 2020. He lost it by 5 in 2024. He lost New York by 22 or 23 in 2020, and he lost it by 12 in 2024. Same thing with Illinois. There's just a ton of states like that. So this was not just like red states getting redder. It was blue states getting redder too. Thanks for the question. Samuel Ginty, Samuel, thank you for your donation. Samuel says, around the entire world, incumbent parties have been mostly losing elections. Do you think this election should be considered part of a global trend? Absolutely. So there's two global trends actually going on. One is anti-incumbency. Two is the rise of populism. We've seen this all over the place. And Donald Trump is a populist. Kamala Harris is not a populist. So rise of populism, no question. We've seen it echoed in elections all around the world over the last year. And anti-incumbency. The anti-incumbency thing is interesting. So I think what you're dealing with is technology, social media, the speed at which information moves, the decline of the mainstream media, more siloing of news sources, has the rising levels of distrust in things we used to trust more: the church, the military, the police, the media, the politics. I think that's all led to a level of significant unease, a feeling of being kind of adrift. And so I think when you feel that way, you're always looking for a new solution. You know that where you are isn't what you want, but you don't totally know what it is you do want. So you jump to the other thing. Now, what we've seen, candidly, is the other thing usually isn't what you want either. But Donald Trump in this situation is the other thing. People didn't like what Joe Biden was doing. They thought Kamala Harris was an extension of what Joe Biden was doing. So they went to the other thing, who they kind of know. I mean, they do know, but he's not in charge right now. So they're going to try the other one. We may jump back and forth and back and forth and back and forth in terms of the parties, you know, like I don't think what we're looking at is a permanent or even a, 20-year Republican majority or Republican control of the White House. I don't think that. I think it's more like, if you told me Democrats retook control of the House in 2026 or even the Senate, I'd be like, okay, I could totally see that. Jorge Caceres. Jorge, thank you for the donation, and not even a question, just out of the kindness of your heart. Thank you. Very much appreciated. Sherry Zimmerman. Rest assured, Christopher. Wow, this feels like my mom talking. At age 73, I voted for 2 women for president, and I'm going to do everything right to be around in 4 years to vote for another. Thank you for keeping it real. Okay. Hey, absolutely. Take care of yourself. Raghavendran Raman. I have a question about rallies. Does it really impact independent voters? I can't really imagine an independent voter going to a rally to get to know about the policies. Does media cover it anyway? Yeah, I've talked about this a little bit, but I'm happy to talk about it more. Campaign rallies really are about 2 things. One, getting people who agree with you there, getting their email addresses, getting them engaged. That's one. 2 is the local media coverage, particularly at the end of a race. So like if you go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and you're Donald Trump, you're doing it, for the people there, like actually at the event, but you're also doing it for how the local media, TV, print, radio covers it for the people who aren't there and aren't your big supporters, but are kind of like, well, I'm interested. Oh, he came to Harrisburg. That's kind of cool. That's why people hold rallies. Kevin O. Kevin, hope you are good, and thank you for the donation. Kevin asks, hi, Chris, what do you make of John Fetterman calling Green Party voters dipshit and claiming that they caused the GOP to beat Casey? Man, I don't know. I know that the margin in Pennsylvania was super close, and Bobby Casey wound up losing to Dave McCormick. To me, I don't think it was the Green Party. I mean, I know people hate when it's a close election and there's some chunk of third-party votes, but I think a lot of those third-party votes are people who are just not, they do not believe in either of what the 2 parties stand for, 2 major parties, and they want to vote for someone else. That's their right. I don't know. I mean, calling them names, I'm not sure is a good way to get them on board in the long run either. Junk Rig Sailor, thank you again. Oh, you're clarifying. I was referring to those elites who dismiss Bernie's post-election scorching assessment of Dems abandoning the working class. I mean, campaigning with Darth Vader's daughter, Liz Cheney, crazy. Yeah, I mean, I actually think the Bernie Sanders thing is a little bit overdone. I don't think that Democrats lost this election because of working class voters. Like Bernie Sanders, it's like when you go to When you go to a foot doctor with foot pain, he's probably going to, or she's probably going to diagnose something wrong with your foot. They're a foot doctor. That's what they do. Bernie Sanders is a guy who spent, 50 years in politics talking about the working class and how they're overlooked and how Democrats and Republicans overlook them. So he's going to look at the election and be like, see, it was because of the working class. Now, do I think campaigning with Liz Cheney was smart? In my view, and I said this at the time, the people who are going to be like, yes, Liz Cheney standing up for democracy, were already Kamala Harris voters. They were already not voting for Donald Trump. Undecided voters did not care about the democracy issue. They just didn't. We can debate until the cows come home about whether they should have. I think they should have, candidly, but they didn't. So campaigning with Liz Cheney, it's just preaching to the choir, I guess is what I would say. Human NC, do you think that the Democrats will shift left or to the center after this defeat? Great question. I think they should move. I think they should try to get out of left versus center and try to move into policies that can help them appeal to people who like their ideas. So one state that I'm going to write about this and probably make a video about it, but one state that I thought was fascinating was Missouri. Donald Trump won Missouri by, I think, 17 points over Kamala Harris. And Josh Hawley, despite some of you on this chat who told me that Josh Hawley was going to lose, Josh Hawley won relatively easily and got reelected to the Senate. But that same group of voters approved a $15, an increase in the minimum wage to $15 and a measure that loosened abortion restrictions in the state. So how do you figure that out, right? Like the Republicans romped as candidates, but on issue stuff, those are traditionally Democratic issues. That's where I would spend my time if I was the Democratic Party. How the hell did we lose so badly in Missouri at the statewide level on the candidate front, but win on issues that are really important to us? That suggests to me Democrats have a brand problem that's not focused on the issues, more focused on the candidates and what they talk about. I hope that makes sense. Julio J., do you expect 2028 elections to go back to a more traditional format about candidates debating issues in a civil manner, or do you think Trumpism will keep influencing that too? Julio, I don't think campaigns were ever about debating issues in a civil manner. I mean, maybe Trump took it to an extreme, but no. I mean, these are personality contests. I know people don't like to hear that, but they are. They call me Blake. Mass deportation is a big undertaking. If you were the project manager for this, what would your rough plan be? Dude, I don't know. I mean, like the first task, I guess in theory, is figure out who these people are. Now, the way that Donald Trump has explained it is local police know all of these people. They know who they are. So that would mean local police know 11 million people plus who are here as undocumented immigrants. Color me skeptical that that's the case. So I mean, to me, you have to figure out the universe of what you're talking about first. And then second, how do you go about getting that universe of people to, like, do you have to like go and arrest every one of them cop style? I don't know. It's a giant undertaking. And I, you know what? My guess is Donald Trump doesn't have a super great idea of how to do it either. Craig Vance, I don't see this as any kind of ideological shift, but certainly a cultural communication shift, a cult of personality, and a triumph of misinformation. What are your thoughts? I don't disagree with you on any of those except the triumph of misinformation. I see a lot of that going around. I mean, yes, does Donald Trump lie all the time? Absolutely. I mean, it's non-debatable. I guess people just don't care about that who are for him. That doesn't bother them. They think all politicians lie. So I guess I don't see the misinformation. Just explain the misinformation thing to me a little bit better. Like, yes, he lies much more than the average politician. He's going to lie all the time as president. And no matter how many times he gets fact checked, it's probably not going to change a lot of people's minds. Yes, that is true. I don't know if that's what you're going for. Travis Lindsay. Travis, thank you so much for the donation. Travis says, while saddened by the result, understanding how this happened has lessened my anger. Channels like yours have helped. Thank you. God, Travis, that's like the nicest thing you could possibly say. Thank you. Look, I'm not a booster. I'm not an activist. I'm not a rooter in this. And I know that's hard for a lot of people, but I just spent my whole life as a journalist trying my best to analyze it for if I thought it would be successful or unsuccessful, or because to me, the first thing you got to do is win. winning allows you to do the things that you believe in. If you don't win, you can't do any of those things. And Democrats are going to find that out over the next 2 years. So thank you. My goal is to try to shine a light and make this stuff a little bit more understandable, a little bit more, a little bit more recognizable, a little easier to get in and get into politics and understand why it's important. So thank you, Travis. That's incredibly kind. I'm just scrolling through all these questions. So thank you. If I haven't gotten yours, I'm going to try. Phil Reinhardt, what happened to Mr. Low Ceiling 48%? Phil, I love you calling me on my BS. Yes. So anyone who knows, who's been on one of these chats before or read anything I wrote said, I think Trump has a very high floor and a very low ceiling. So 46% in a swing state and probably no higher than 48%. Well, he got 51 in Wisconsin. He got 50 or 51, or no, he got 49 in Wisconsin, 50 or 51 in Michigan, 50 or 51 in Pennsylvania. He's going to be at 50, I think, in Nevada and Arizona, and he got 50 in Georgia and North Carolina. Yeah. So, I mean, short answer, I was wrong. Long answer, what Trump did was grow his vote share. I know there's a lot of focus on like, there's so many missing votes from 2020. No, the turnout's going to be about the same, actually. Trump got more votes in Georgia this time than he did in 2020. I think he got more votes in North Carolina, too. Like, remember, they're still counting votes. There's no conspiracy here. I feel like Republicans and Democrats have seized on this. Republicans have said, see, it's a conspiracy because Biden got 81 million votes and Harris only has 60-something million. They're still counting votes, lots of votes. Like, I think 5 million votes in California were still uncounted as of yesterday. So, but I would say that I think he simply grew his universe of people. He made inroads in places significant inroads in places I wasn't sure he could. Young men, Latinos, and grew the number of people. Again, this was an across the board win for Trump. He grew everywhere: urban counties, suburban counties, rural counties, red states, blue states, high income, low income, like everywhere you get white, black, Latino. Well, black was about even, but Latino, he grew almost everywhere. So it's hard to pinpoint any one thing. But Phil, I appreciate you calling me out on my BS. John Donaldson, actually, it wasn't BS. I just underestimated what Trump could get. I believed it. John Donaldson. John, thank you for the donation. Hi, Chris. My wife is very concerned about our Social Security benefits after the election. Do you have any sense if they are really in danger? So Trump has gone back and forth on Social Security and Medicare. Obviously, it's a massive entitlement that adds hugely to our debt and deficit issues. At the end, he was saying, I will not touch them. And I think that's probably right, because I think even though, honestly, in order to get our financial house right, we probably do have to touch them. My guess is he will stay away from it. Though, again, Trump is utterly transactional. So, if he decides it's in his interest to mess with it, he will. Are there enough votes in Congress for that? I don't know. It's a good question. Mike Smithgall. Mike, thank you for the donation. I appreciate you very much. If Biden was a rebuke of Trump and his policies, how only 3 years later did those people go back to Trump as the nominee, let alone the president-elect? The GOP didn't offer any other choices they wanted. No, people wanted Trump. Remember, particularly with the Republican base, they never thought Trump lost. He never conceded. He never said he lost. He just kept running right after 2020. And why did more people go to him? Because I think, like I said, they were unhappy with where they were. They blamed Biden and to a lesser extent Harris, and Trump was the other alternative. I mean, in a binary choice, if you don't like A, you're getting B. I hope that makes sense, Tony. Mike, thank you for the donation. Carolina boy. Sorry, Carolina. Thanks for the donation, my friend. Can Dems still compete in elections with GOP's absolute dominance in alternative media? Not sure if less influential when supporting the incumbent. Good question. I mean, though I would say, people are like Joe Rogan. Like, I'm not sure Joe Rogan is like a conservative, right? I mean, he's just kind of like, I mean, he has some sort of, I guess I would call him sort of a libertarian if I had to put him into a box. By the way, over 600 people on this. Also, Starbucks is doing the Christmas cups or holiday cups. Went with a venti caramel macchiato today, just in case you're wondering. I think they still can compete for sure. I'm always skeptical when people are willing to say like, that's it, it's over. Democrats can't win anymore, or Republicans can't win anymore. Things go back and forth, and they go back and forth faster now than ever before. there are like the Young Turks and Midas Touch and some of those people on the left, and there's a bunch of people on Substack, candidly, who are beating that sort of liberal drum. So I think they can compete on that, but it's a good, interesting question. Jay Nightingale, hey Chris, what do you think is the future of the ACA under the Trump administration? Thank you. Dude, count me skeptical that the Trump administration is going to overturn Obamacare. I just remember in the debate when Trump said he had concepts of a plan. He doesn't have any plan. The truth of the matter is they would be insane politically to do that. Obamacare used to be unpopular, and then the longer it's been a law, the more popular it's gotten. I think it would be crazy to do that, mostly because it's really hard to reform the healthcare system on a comprehensive basis. There's a reason that I think 6 or 7 presidents before Obama couldn't do it, even though they tried. I think that would be a dumb fight to pick. Let's see. What else we got? Tommy Farrell. Thanks for staying on top of things the last few days. I always appreciate your insight and candor. Hey, man, thank you. That's really kind. Barry Good. Hello. James UK. Hi, Chris. Greetings from the UK. I figured that out from your handle. If the Dems had a time machine and went back 12 months, knowing what they know now, is there a path to victory? Man, that's a great question. It's kind of in that same space as had Joe Biden. Okay, let me do a few hypotheticals that I know the answer to. Joe Biden was not winning this election. There's no way. I don't think he was going to win it even if the June 27th debate never existed, but he definitely wasn't going to win it after the June 27th debate. So put that away. Now, a harder hypothetical to answer is, could someone other than Harris have won if that person was the Democratic nominee? I lean no on that. This feels to me like people were unhappy with the Biden presidency. I think there were a large chunk of people who felt like the White House kind of and Democrats more broadly covered up Biden's ailments and illness and not illness, but ailments and age and that sort of thing. And we're pissed off about that. Like, I think the June 27th debate might have been it, looking back, that people were like, nope, I'm not doing that. So I don't think anyone else. Could Gretchen Whitmer have come a little bit closer? Probably. Could Shapiro have maybe won Pennsylvania? Maybe. But I think Trump was probably going to win the election. But great question. David Osberg. David, thank you so much. David said, good job. That's so nice of you. No question. I appreciate it. I'm trying. Isaac Medina says, hit that like button. Yes, smash that like button. We're at 196. Got to get it over 200. Sorry, just scrolling. Rich G. Rich, thank you for the donation. I'm emotionally spent on politics. Is Piper hitting Jimmy Snuka with a coconut the best Piper's Pit ever? Thank you for your daily videos and live streams. Yes, that was amazing. I love that moment. And by the way, Jimmy Snuka was like my favorite wrestler growing up, Jimmy Superfly Snuka. But I believe he had some major ethical and female issues, if I'm not mistaken. It's kicking around the back of my mind. John Donaldson. John, I answered yours about the Social Security. Jack says, Chris, you're in your Acela bubble. Yeah, I mean, I live in Northern Virginia. I'm a journalist. What I try to do is do my best to recognize that I do not live in sort of like normal America and compensate for that by trying to listen to as many voices as possible. But yeah, I mean, I guess you wrote it in all caps, so it must be true. Hold on. I'm Mike Witz. Mike, thank you for your donation. Canada is looking like a good place to live. Okay. Oh, Mike. I did talk to a friend who is looking at space in Canada. Let's see. Sorry, a ton of questions. I'm just trying to get to where I left off. Hold on. Ramen, not a Trump fan, but I won't lie. I've gotten so much schadenfreude from seeing the smug, self-righteous, and hectoring class brought low. Well, there's smug and self-righteous and hectoring people on both sides. But yes, the people who said, but what about Alan Lichtman to me all the time? Give me a break. How's it going for you now? Well, that was smug and self-righteous of me. Shabbat Springfield, was there any governor flips? No, because well, that's not true. New Hampshire went to Kelly Ayotte, a Republican, and had been held by John Lynch. Was it John Lynch? New Hampshire had been held by a Democrat, is now held by a Republican. North Carolina was the only other big election, gubernatorial election on the map. And obviously, Mark Robinson, the Republican, blew himself up politically speaking, and Josh Stein, the Democrat. One, it had been held by a Democrat, Roy Cooper, for 2 terms. Slim Whitman, every Harris or Trump YouTube ad I ever saw asked for money, but didn't try to educate me about their positions or plans. Seems a missed opportunity to get their message out. Yeah, I wonder about that, Slim. Is like, are these campaigns still using the kind of like new media like YouTube just to raise money as opposed to actually communicate with voters? I don't know. It's a good question. I think TV ads mattered less in this campaign than they ever have before, but they still mattered more than any other medium in terms of persuasion. Pocket Watch, thank you for the donation. Pocket Watch says, best political news value, highly recommend his Substack. Yes, thank you, Pocket Watch. So again, go to Substack, just search Substack and my name, Chris Cillizza, or go to Chris, CILLIZZA.substack.com. You can sign up. Dicaeus, why is there no discussion about the raw numbers of voters? Why was turnout so much lower than 2020? How do you get people to the polls? Again, turnout is not going to be so much lower than 2020. It's going to be almost the same. Now, as a percentage, it might be a little lower because more people, the country is always growing population-wise, and more people are becoming, turning 18 and becoming eligible to vote. But turnout is not, don't buy that. Turnout is not down. They're counting votes still. It's 3 days after the election. In places like Arizona and Nevada and California, it takes them forever to count votes. So that's what's happening. XPFC Wintergreen V20. Don't call me stupid for voting for Trump, or I will vote for Trump. Take pride in your will for ignorance. James McNair, young MAGA is going to learn the word filibuster. Fair enough. Kevin O, Josh Shapiro is the most qualified candidate for 2028. We'll see. Kevin O says Wes Moore. Yes, I should have mentioned. I forgot Wes Moore. Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, will be in the middle of, he'll probably get reelected in 2026. He'll be in the middle of his second term at that point. Yes, I think he absolutely will be a figure. Junk Creek Sailor. Junk Creek, thanks again for your donation. Dem campaign was at peak popularity during the Walz, their weird period. Then they hid Walz away from media interviews. What was the point of Walz as a left-leaning running mate if you stop letting him talk to the media? Look, I think, honestly, Kamala Harris made the choice of Tim Walz because of the "you're weird" thing. And it's like, I mean, it was like a slogan that worked for like 10 days against Trump and Vance. Like, that seemed to be a weird pick. She didn't lose because of that. And yes, I thought she should have picked Josh Shapiro. She would not have won with Josh Shapiro. I don't think she would have won Pennsylvania or the other states she lost. But she basically picked Tim Walz because in the moment she was making the pick, the "you're their weird" thing got traction. It's a weird way to make a pick. Still alive. Thank you for the donation. Do you think blue states and cities will be safe under Trump? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't, he has said many times in the campaign trail he's going to clean up Washington, D.C. and make it better. I don't know what that actually looks like. But yeah, I mean, look, let's wait and see what he does. He says a lot. Let's see what he does. And then let's judge from there. Noel Fredrickson. No question, just money. Noel, you are my kind of guy. Thank you for the donation. Let's see. Josh B. Chris is going to make a special video. Wink. What is that? Like an OnlyFans thing? Stay in your lane, Chris. No, look, nobody wants to see that. I'm not an idiot. It'll just be a fun video if I get to 50,000. When I got to 40,000, I did 40 fun facts about the presidents. I'm not going to do 50 fun facts about the presidents. Maybe I'll do 50 things you don't know about me. I don't know if I could come up with that. 50 fun Chris facts. Would anyone care about that? Hold on. Here's one. This is my you probably can't. Can you see it? Because the light. This is my JV high school basketball team. Can you pick me out in there? It's my JV basketball team signed by my whole team. Can you pick me out? It's right around there. Yeah, we were tough. Just leave that in the background. Let's see. I'm trying to look for people who have not asked questions. Harsh Bade says Gavin Newsom, Andy Bashir for 2024. Interesting, but do Democrats want another California, San Francisco person? Newsom is pretty unpopular in his own backyard. Very much a do as I say, not as I do type. Yeah, remember, Newsom got tons of bad press when he went to a super fancy restaurant during COVID. Eric James. Eric, thank you for your donation. Eric says, I want to publicly apologize to you for saying that Punxsutawney Phil is better at predicting the weather than you are at predicting elections. I drank the Alan Lichtman Kool-Aid. I get it, man. Dude. We all make mistakes. This stuff is hard to do. It's hard to figure out, especially when you have rooting interest. I totally get it. And you know what? I've been wrong lots of times. So thank you for your public apology. Not necessary, but please, people, do not send me things about Alan Lichtman. He was just wrong. There's no like way around it. He was wrong. Okay. Darshan. Hi, Chris. Loved your explainers during this elections. Who's next for Dens? Newsom? And is this permanent shift of the Republican Party from conservative to populism complete? Yes. The Republican Party is now a populist party. It is not really a conservative party. I mean, on some things it's conservative, but it's really a populist party. Again, I'll go through some names. Shapiro, Newsom, Whitmer, Pritzker, Moore, Buttigieg, Klobuchar. That's who jumps to mind. There will obviously be more. There'll be way, way more. Carlos Gamez. Oh, Carlos. Carlos says Shapiro 2028. Justin C. Who will win the House? I think Republicans will. Right now, I think they're on the verge, but not enough races have been called. I think Republicans will win the House, and it'll be a pretty narrow majority. I think they have like a 3-seat majority by the end this time around. Probably be in the 5-6 range is my guess, but it's going to be small. Yeah. Oh, Steve Longmore says Japanese Standard Time. It's 2 a.m. in Japan Saturday. God, I got to time my live streams better for my Japan audience. Sorry, Steve. Aperture, thank you for the donation. I see lots of people talking about how this is the last election we will have, and I think that is entirely wrong. Democracy is stronger than one man. Yes. Billy D in the Hoodoos. Thanks, Chris. Please explain, since some cited as their reason for voting Trump, how Trump embodies conservative principles. In my opinion, he doesn't really. He embodies populist principles. I guess if you had to make that argument, Billy D, I would say appointing conservative justices to the federal judiciary, including the Supreme Court, tax cuts, and that's about it. Everything else, he's more populist. Trade, immigration, he's more populist than he is conservative. Marquis Del Toro. Marquis, thank you for the donation. Did young men growing up in the age of toxic masculinity and MRA deliver them to Trump? I do think the kind of, what is his name? I'm not going to be able to remember. The guy who's lives abroad, and he's the very into how he looks, and he's rich. And he talks about like men being men all the time. Like my kids were talking about him all the time, like 3 years ago. I do think some of that stuff is, and Tucker Carlson, by the way, is right in this space, although he's kind of a weird messenger for it, like bow ties and stuff. But nonetheless, he's like this, like, you got to be a man. Jesse Waters is the same way. Yeah. I mean, I think Rogan is sort of like that. Nelk Boys, there's a lot of that, like men being men stuff. So I do think that has some impression. Yeah. Doc Byrne. Right now, I consume 90% of political commentary, not a lot, through your channel and PBS NewsHour. What content out there do you see with a similar philosophy? Do you think it will gain more traction? Man, I hope so. I am grinding away. Like, I'm making videos. I'm doing everything that I can to say, we need reasonable analysis. We need people who are not coming at it from this extreme or that extreme. We need people to say, like, okay, this is a good idea or this is a bad idea. This is a smart thing for a candidate to do. This is a dumb thing for a candidate to do, as opposed to this is good because Democrats do it and this is bad because Republicans do it. There's so much of that. Honestly, it's easy to make money doing that in journalism, but that's not what I'm interested in doing. All right, I'm going to make sure I'm not missing anybody's donations first. Oh, it's Andrew Tate. Yes, David Johnson. Thank you. Andrew Tate is exactly who I'm talking about. Thank you. The guy who's pushing what I would say is extreme toxic masculinity. Topher793. Topher, thanks for the donation. Will Stephen Goebbels, oops, I meant Miller, attempt to go through with his denaturalization process he is tweeting about? I don't know. I don't know how much influence Stephen Miller is going to have, and I don't know how much political capital on immigration Donald Trump's going to have if he is trying to round up all the undocumented immigrants and get rid of them. Is he also going to denaturalize people? I just don't know. Mike Witt says Andrew Yang 2028. I loved Andrew Yang. I thought he had a lot of interesting, cool ideas. But he lost badly in his candidacy for the Democratic presidential nomination. And then he lost for mayor of New York. So I think Andrew might be done. And Mike also says Warnock 2028. He reminds me of Obama the most. You know what, Mike? That is a really, really good one that I should have mentioned. Mike, thank you for all your donations, by the way. I say that too. But yes, Raphael Warnock absolutely should be in the mix for 2028. Super talented communicator from a swing state, Georgia, African American. Yes, totally agree. Let me make sure. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anybody who donated because I don't want to shortchange you. Kiwi Crusher, is the era of the two-term president over? Kiwi, that's a good question. So I think it's much hard. I mean, look, before Biden beat Trump, the last time it had happened, a first-term president losing, was George H.W. Bush to Bill Clinton in 92, which is a while. I mean, usually when you got elected president, you basically got there for 2 terms. The fact that Biden didn't run, but I think if he had run, he would have lost. The fact that in the last 2 elections, we've seen an incumbent lose effectively, an incumbent's party lose effectively. I do think that raises that question. And I think it goes back to the back and forth nature of our politics. We don't know what we want. We just know what we don't want. And when you know what you don't want and the incumbent party represents that for you, which it always does, you just go to the other one. And I think we might just be going back and forth a lot. Anderson L. Anderson, thanks for the donation. Do you think Project 2025 was used as a scare tactic? A little bit. I think the Democratic base cared deeply about Project 2025 and this idea that Trump was this was his secret plan. Yeah, I do. And I will tell you, I don't think Project 2025 moved a single swing or independent voter. I mean, you proved me wrong, but I'd be very, very surprised if it did. Hold on. Let me see what else I got here. Christopher Swan. Christopher, thank you so much for the donation. If this is a MAGA revolution realignment, then we are looking at the Dems finding themselves a modern Clinton and Dems overall shift to the center. And will that be helped by Never Trump and the D Party? Yeah, I think a bunch of the Never Trump people have a decision to make. Are you Democrats? Right? Because Trump's going to be president for the next 4 years, and I don't think he's running again. So it's okay, well, that piece is kind of over with. What are you now? Are you part of what is after Trump's 4 years, or are you Democrats? I mean, to me, a lot of Never Trump people who claim they were Republicans really veered into advocacy for Kamala Harris and advocacy for some of her policies that were not conservative at all, nor should they be. She's a Democrat, but I wonder about that. Where does that movement go from here? Because being anti-Trump is one thing, but Trump's not going to stand for election again. So yes, you can obviously hold him to account throughout his administration, as I will do, and as I think a lot of people will do. But then what's next? Are you just going to be is JD Vance an okay Republican if he's the Republican nominee, or are you going to be a never Vancer? And if you are, does that just mean you're a Democrat now? So anyway, because the Republican Party that a lot of these people are clinging to does not exist anymore. I mean, that's the thing I think to remember. It just doesn't exist. It's not a thing. It's a populist party now. 100 people told me Andrew Tate. So sorry. Yes, I really should have. Remembered him because he was everywhere 3 years ago. Sorry, I'm going to scroll up and see what else we got. Mark Scott, do you think Dems will move on from trying to get Trump in whatever ways they could and focus instead on rebuilding their platform? So one thing that I did, Mark, thanks for the question. One thing that I did notice a lot of, sorry, I'm congested. I know no one likes me sniffing or eating on camera. I've heard your feedback on that, or on Mike. One of the things I thought about Mark was, in 2016, it seemed to me that the Hillary Clinton message basically boiled down to, well, you're not going to vote for that guy about Donald Trump. And kind of, if you boil the Kamala Harris message down, it's kind of, well, you're not going to vote for that guy. So I do think there should be some thinking done in the Democratic Party about rebuilding. Okay, what are the issues where we can win over these voters who we are losing, whether it's white working class voters, whether it's Latino men, Latinos more generally, whether it's young people, particularly young men. Where can we plant a flag on issues and bring people over that way? Maybe it's raising the minimum wage. Maybe it's loosening abortion restrictions. Again, I think that those are fair things to think about. But yeah, I worry for Democrats that they just are anti-Trump, but that's not enough of a message. He's won twice. Christopher Cantrell, how much was this not Dems being too far left, but not representing significant change? A little of both, I think. So no question that this was about Harris not being the change candidate because she was tied too closely to Biden. Yes. But it was also about, I think, trans stuff and woke issues more broadly. I think that hurt them too. So I think it was both. I don't think it was an either or. Let's see. Jen X-Ray. Get to know who Peter Thiel is, as well as Curtis Yarvin Monarchist and the Straussian movement. It is a battle of billionaire tech bros who either hate women versus men who want to inhabit womanhood. Okay. Haresh Adnani. Will this fizzle out like Nixon's victory in 72 and Boris Johnson's victory in 2019? We'll see. I honestly don't know. All you can say right now is this was a very good election for Republicans, right? I mean, I don't think we can cast too far on the future because who the hell knows what the future holds. Clark, since about 12% of Democrats failed to vote compared to last time, would pushing harder for mail-in voting would made a difference? I don't know, and I don't know about that 12% number. The one thing I say generally about turnout is it's still being counted. Don't buy into this like conspiracy theory that there's like either Democrats cheated in 2020 and that's how they got 81 million votes, which Republicans say, or there was this drastic Democratic abandonment of the ticket in 2024. They're still counting votes in a bunch of these states, including lots of Democratic votes. So, let's see. Fabian Teague. Chris Lichtman rules. Even Mike Tyson and the Patriots and the Yankees lost. Oh, Chris Lichtman rules. So you're saying like it's okay because Lichtman got this one wrong. All right, man. Robert Riley. The stock market since the election is astonishing. It really is. Let's see. Jonathan Verano. Hey, Chris. Hello from Northern New Jersey. Very happy to see my state move further right this election cycle. I'm curious to see if our governor's race next year will be even more competitive. I am too. Big time. I thought that result, New Jersey, Trump losing by only 5 after losing by 16 4 years earlier. Yeah, I'm very interested in that. And remember, Virginia and New Jersey have governor's races in 2025. That's going to be our first signal, I think, first big signal of, is this a lasting movement, Trump populism, that kind of reshapes our electoral coalitions, or is this kind of a one-off that just is related to Trump being on the ballot and other candidates can't pick it up? We'll see. Great question, though, Jonathan. I'm super intrigued to see that, too. Dan, what do you think happens to wokeism and identity politics? It is costing Dems tens of millions of votes, but so deeply ingrained in their messaging and institutions. I agree. It's really, really, really hard. Again, the base of the party believes deeply in this stuff, in identity politics, and it's just going to be really hard. You know, someone who says, like, we got to stop talking about trans issues and we got to stop talking about identity politics, I'm not sure that's a message that wins with the Democratic base. Mike Witt. Mike, thank you for your donation. Mike says, I can see it now. Trump changes constitution and runs again in 2028, and we get the match we've always wanted, Obama versus Trump 2028. Look, just one quick, I know you're joking, Mike, but just one quick thing on that. Look, to change the Constitution, which is what would need to happen for Donald Trump to run for a third term, right? It's in the 22nd Amendment. It's not gray area. It's very clear. 2 terms, that's it. 8 years. You can't serve any more than that. Non-consecutive or consecutive. Okay. To do that, you need 2/3 votes in the House and Senate to allow it. And then 3/4 of the state legislatures in the country have to ratify it. That is not going to happen. Michelle Alvarez, does Trump leave office without force after the 8/28 election? So the question that Michelle's getting at is the one, like, okay, let's just say Donald Trump tries to stay in office regardless. Like there's a campaign to replace him or whatever, but he just tries to stay in office. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. MSU fan, who does Mike DeWine pick for J.D. Vance's seat? So, right. So J.D. Vance's seat in Ohio Senate is going to be vacated. Can I give you a name? You know who's from Ohio? Vivek Ramaswamy. Amy Ryan, PBS NewsHour is fantastic. They absolutely are. If you want an unbiased explanation of both sides without drama, watch that. Totally agree. Fabian Teague, Chris, hello from Northern British Columbia. By the way, Canada thinks your country is kind of boinky. Boinky? Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, trying to get through people who have not asked questions. Let me just make sure I'm not missing people. If I do miss you, trust me, it is not impartial, on purpose. Mo Coffee says much of the opinion being expressed is more moot than ever. Wow. Okay. Philosophy lives. He's running again unless he decides he is too old. Okay. Again, like there is the Constitution. You don't just get to do it. Like I think, yeah. Ray Rolt, should Jack Smith release a report and Biden declassify everything? Well, I think Jack Smith, I saw just before I got on this chat, Jack Smith is working to wind down and close up everything related to these probes, classified documents in the 2016 election. I guess he could try to release it and Biden could make it public, but man, I think you're probably not going to hear much more from Jack Smith. Walter Amon. Walter, thank you for your donation. Your thoughts on how long Trump has to make an impression before the opinion approval locks in for the midterm? Seems like he could get lame duck quick. Well, he is a lame duck the second he's sworn in because he can't serve another term. I absolutely can see. Look, Donald Trump's not going to be a 60% approval rating. Remember, he never had a 50% plus approval rating in the 4 years he was president. Not at the beginning, not at the end. So I would assume the same is going to hold true. And if he is in the low 40s, that's going to be hard. First midterm of a president's term tends to be very bad for his party. So I could see Democrats retaking the House, assuming they lose the House majority this time around. Senate's a little harder just because of the seats that are up. But yeah, I could see that. And then we'll be having a totally different conversation, right? John Creek Sailor, one last question today. I'll end the war in Ukraine on day one, come back to bite Trump? And what if he lets Netanyahu run amok worse than Biden? I don't think it will. Of course, he's not going to end the Ukraine-Russia war on day one. But I don't think anyone, including lots of people who voted for him, thought he would. I think it's just kind of bluster that he's going to be tougher. Maybe he will be, maybe he won't be, but I don't think it will be a penalty for him. Mike Witt, I have cut off all my Trump friends and family. How do I talk to them about politics during the holidays? So 2 options, Mike, and thank you again for the donation. 1, you don't talk politics. I know that's hard, but maybe not. 2, find places about values, what they care about. I'm sure you both care about your family. I'm sure you both care about younger generations having opportunity. I'm sure you care about wanting to achieve a goal, a small goal, run a marathon, a big goal, whatever. Talk about that stuff because I do think we have a lot in common. I know we don't focus on it as much, but El Hombre de Oro, are New Jersey, Illinois, Minnesota, and New York new swing states? New Jersey, maybe. Minnesota, for sure, could be in 2028. Minnesota's been moving Republican even before Trump, so I think it could be. New Jersey, I don't totally know. We'll see. 2025 will be a good indicator on that. Illinois, I'm a little more skeptical of. New York, I'm a little more skeptical of because, yes, they moved toward Trump, but Harris still won them she won New York by double digits. Illinois maybe not. So I don't know, but it's a great question about how does the playing field look different? I'll tell you what's not a swing state: Florida, where Trump won by 13, and maybe not even Texas going forward, where Trump won by 10. Okay, a couple more. Let's see. Amy Ryan, wokeism is not a bad thing, but it's a failing campaign issue. The majority cares more about financial issues. Agree. Although I will say I don't think Kamala Harris talked all that much about sort of wokeism, but enough Democrats have said enough stuff since about 2019 that it's in the ether and they have to combat it. I think they have to figure out a way. Dan, I think within a year, Elon will be as popular as Mike Pence to MAGA. No chance in hell those two egomaniacs can work with each other. Yeah, I'm interested to see that. When you both think you're the smartest and best person in the world, it's like 2 piranhas in a bowl. Good question. Let's see. Sorry, trying to get a few more in here. Matt Davidson, Chris, I agree Trump can't run again on principle, but there's no enforcement in place. How do we enforce it? Great question. Somebody asked me this the other day, and I said, I think Congress would try to remove him. But technically Trump is the head of the military. And then we get into a really, really dark place. I just don't think that's going to happen. In 4 years, you can play this and say, see, Chris, you were naive. Maybe I will be, but I'm not going to live every day assuming that Donald Trump is going to try to seize a military dictatorship come 2029. Let me see any others. Monica Rickett, looking forward to Trump being called the lame duck and his own VP angling to run. Monica, I do think something that is really, really interesting about this is, in theory, Vance is in position, right, for 2028, again, assuming Trump doesn't try to stay in office. But Trump is Trump. Trump doesn't like anyone to outshine him, and he certainly doesn't like anyone to sort of begin the process of moving him aside. And that's exactly what J.D. Vance has to do over the next 4 years. Awkward. Tyler Stooksbury. Tyler, thank you for the donation. Do you believe that Trump will be as damaging to democracy as the Dems have suggested? Sorry if this has been talked about already. I've talked a little bit about it. No, I don't. I think democracy is stronger than any one guy. And I don't think in a 4-year period, Donald Trump can overturn sort of the free and independent media, the Supreme Court, which I know people say the Supreme Court's biased, but the Supreme Court did not allow Donald Trump to contest the 2020 election. They threw it out. I just keep coming back to that. We have proof that this court, when pressed with a totally irrelevant challenge, dismissed it. So to the election. So I guess I'm more optimistic, I guess. Brett Green, thoughts on the Iowa poll being so off? It was an outlier. She missed it. I think she's a good pollster. I'm going to continue to look at her numbers, but she missed it. I mean, I don't know. There's no other way to sugarcoat that. She had it +3. Trump won by 13. JT says the only saving grace, I assume you mean in 2028, will be he will be really old. He'll be 82. He'll be older than Joe Biden. Let's see. I'm just looking to see if there are any other ones. Chris said, don't mention Lichtman. I mean, you can mention him. He was just wrong. Like it's fine, but he was wrong because his system is subjective, just like lots of things are subjective. The idea that Alan Lichtman has like figured out how every winner of an election will be called seems to me to be outlandish, and it was always outlandish. All right. So I've done like an hour. Let me stop there because I got something at 2 that I'm going to be late for, but that's fine. Do me a favor. If you have not liked this, just hit like. We have almost 600 people on here. We have 259 likes. Just hit like. Do that for me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'm going to be doing more live streams because I really enjoy doing them. So I'm going to do them on Fridays, but I also may do them intermittently here and there to just address one thing or another. So please subscribe so that you get alerted to those live streams. If you have not liked this video, like I said, please do it. Comment on my videos. Do it for the algorithm because as we get bigger, the algorithm likes comments and engagement. So engage and comment. If nothing else, do it for the computer. And I always ask people, please tell 10 friends about this. If you got 5 friends, tell 5. If you got 1, tell 1. But I'm trying to spread the word on what I'm doing. This is how I make my living. So anything that you can do to be supportive of that, whether it's financial, whether it's donations here, whether it's subscribing to my Substack newsletter, whether it's just supporting me, subscribing here and telling people about it, or being a free subscriber at my Substack. Anything you can do is very, very, very much appreciated. It has been a long week. Please, everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. And remember, we have much more in common than that which separates us. All right, everybody, take care.